it's weird. So in addition to like YouTube, I also teach VW Audi repair to independent shops. Cars break all on their own all the time in like just the most random, sometimes horribly painful ways.
Especially
However,
Volkswagen and Audi, I think, is probably the operative word there.
All right. So because that's my experience, I just assume all cars break that way. So it's probably completely unfair. That said, out of the 6 cars that I have right now, 5 of them European cars and the Miata. The Miata is the only one with the check engine light on. So I'm just putting that out there that
that says more about you than the Miata.
Wasn't that car wrecked when you got it?
Really drivable. So anyway, yeah, that is yeah, it probably does say more about me than it does about the car line. But it's actually a lot harder to like break a car on purpose for the point of demonstration than it is just to like rando have the car break. And we had this Audi A4 that we were trying to break in a specific way to demonstrate how to go about a diagnostic process and teach these guys what to do when they ran into this. And man, my co-instructor and I, no joke, spent 2 hours trying to break this Audi. And even with like disconnecting wires and pulling fuses, it was still cool. Totally cool. I don't get it.
I'm going to go ahead and press X to doubt there, my friend, because I had some Audis, and believe me, you don't have to pull any. Maybe you have golden hands, and I know you do. You are a complete master of Volkswagen and Audis, but for us normal folk, they are a little hard. I just put together a Bentley, which is all Volkswagen and Audi, and that is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy.
I have not a ton of Bentley experience, but enough Bentley experience to know that it's basically, especially the one you were working on, a W12 twin turbocharged Phaeton, which is kind of cool. They share a ton of similar part numbers. But my favorite Bentley story came many years ago. I was working, and I'm terrible with Bentley car names, but it was the 2-door, the coupe, the W12 twin turbo, very cool car. And the general manager of the dealership I work for asked me to put a high mount brake light in it, and he's got the light. I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, this is easy, no problem. So like I get all just intimate with the car, tape it off, super careful, like hazmat suit basically, so that that I don't scratch this guy's car up. And I'm working this high mount light out, working it out, and I start to see this little dust. What the heck is this little dust? And I go like this, and I can't figure it out. Whatever, keep going. And then I hear this little crunch. There's like a very subtle crunch. Pull the tape back, and I broke the back window of this Bentley. Of course, you can only get the glass from Bentley. Of course, it's a $2,500 dealer cost piece of glass, and none of the glass companies want to put it in. But yeah, it turns out that the high mount light, there was no chance I was ever getting it out because the connector runs through the adhesive on the glass. And the way the Bentley techs get it out, so I talked to a Bentley tech later on about this. He's like, yeah, what we do is we drill holes in the high mount light, and we use a slide hammer and slide hammer the high mount out. I'm like, here's me trying to be careful, and y'all are slide hammering out this light. He's like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'm like, oof, okay, I love it.
Oh yeah. That's the only way to work on them because they are, for all intents and purposes, just tanks. Everything is heavy duty.
So you remember how you're saying that like all cars are like kind of the same, but this one is yours, right? I think that the thing that designates a car as a Tavarish car is that it's been on fire. You know what I mean? It's like it's red on red, red with a red interior. It's got the manual transmission, and it's been on fire.
It's a small fire. It's nothing to worry about. Okay.
One.
Freddie, I think we have opposite vehicle fire policies. My policy on a car that once it's on fire, it just stays on fire till it's done. And I have mad respect for your willingness to deal with a car that's. I've dealt with a couple of car fires in a professional repair world, and it's the worst. It's the worst.
Yes. The fires, they're like, it's a spectrum, right? So not all fires are the same. On my Lamborghini, the Gallardo that I bought, that had a fire, but it was a fuel fire from the guy overfilling it. So this car has like I don't know if it's a defect or something, but it's like if you fill it, you have to do it at an angle because then it won't fill all the way. So if you have the little nozzle at an angle, then it'll fill the fuel pump. Yeah, it's weird. So you have to have it at an angle. And I think he was talking to some guy that was like, asking him, oh, how fast does it go? How much does it cost? And he just overfilled it. It overfilled into onto the exhaust manifolds, which are right next to the fuel tank. And then it went up. So it was at a fuel station. But being at a fuel station, they put it out like right away. So it caused some damage to the quarter panel. There was some melted wires, but he started it up and he drove it onto the tow truck. So it wasn't like anything bad. But it can get really bad. Like the Ferrari that I had, like that burned for a good bit. Like everything that behind, actually the seats included, everything burned. But the metal itself was still like it wasn't too wavy. I'm replacing all that metal anyway. But once when a car is like really, really bad is when the aluminum structure actually melts. And like I've seen a lot of plastic melting, which is normal. Plastic actually melts at a relatively low temperature. But like when aluminum starts to melt, when you get like wheels melted, like that is like you're already compromising the structural integrity of the metal. You're changing you're basically making it more brittle, and that car is no longer safe to drive.
Freddie, I'm just waiting for you to be like, I bought a Ferrari that had been on fire, and you just have like a dustpan like filled with like the ashes.
That day has come, my friend, because I put a thing out on Instagram saying I actually bought a Superlight SLC, which is like this kit car, and it was in such a horrific fire that the wheels melted. And I was like, oh, well, this is a good deal. I'm not rebuilding it. This was just for parts. So
this is a good deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if that can show up.
It showed me the post.
Is that the car?
That's the car. There we go. Yeah. So.
No, that's another.
I bought that. That's the good one. That's the good one.
Yeah.
No.
Do you have any merch that you just like a picture of you, like an illustration of you in like a graveyard, just like digging up, and you can see like the partially exposed shell of like a dead supercar. You're just like, you just won't let them die.
Or it's like that meme of the dog with everything around him on fire, and he's like, "This is fine."
But you're inside a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like this is fine. This is fine. But yeah, I mean, fires don't really matter if they're small, but if they're big, they can affect a lot. The same with floods. Like there are different types of floods. If you have a freshwater flood that only goes up to a little bit, and like it might short out some of the electrical components, you can replace those and dry stuff out, and usually you'll be okay. But if it gets really high, it's salt water, it gets into the engine, it starts scoring cylinder walls, and then it destroys all the electrical components and wiring. That is really, really bad. So I've had flood vehicles before, and I've never really dealt with like a lot of the crash stuff, but the McLaren that I have, that actually got like crashed real good. So now I'm replacing a frame on a McLaren, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
You know that I was reading an article in Car and Driver about the F1, the McLaren F1, and apparently they're worth so much money that somebody wrecked an F1 that it literally split in half, and they put it back.
Yeah.
The McLaren factory put it back together because it was worth more than.
Wow.
Total.
Oh yeah. So these cars that like I just went to Amelia Island on the tail end of my series Car Trek. I went to Amelia Island, and that's where all the hoity-toity, rich people go to value their cars. And these cars, like these $50 million Ferrari, 250 Lusos, those cars are so expensive that you can smash them full speed into a brick wall, and somebody will rebuild them. like it is like they will never ever be salvaged. Like that value will never go to zero unless there's a fire where it's literally just ash. So I mean, Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, he crashed his McLaren F1 twice, and it still went for like $12 or $15 million when he sold it.
That's wild.